Welcome to Zoe Stories. Girlfriend turned me into a girl for our vacation. My name is Evan and I'm 25 years old. I've always considered myself an average guy. Nothing too exciting about me. I have a steady job at a marketing firm, a small group of close friends, and a girlfriend, Emma, who's been my partner for almost 2 years now. Emma is a free spirit, lively, adventurous, and full of energy. It's one of the reasons I fell for her in the first place. She brings excitement and spontaneity into my life, and I've always appreciated that about her. But lately, I've started feeling like I'm getting stuck in a rut, especially when it comes to our relationship. Emma has always encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone, but she also has a tendency to throw me into situations that push me way beyond the boundaries I'm used to. I remember one night, just a few weeks ago, she brought up something that caught me completely off guard. We were talking about our upcoming vacation, this big trip she'd been planning for months. A chance to escape our hectic lives and do something different. But then she dropped a bombshell. She wanted me to join her on this vacation dressed as a woman. At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. I mean, Emma had always known about my more adventurous side, but this was completely different. She wasn't suggesting we do some couple's costume for Halloween or play dress up for fun. No, she was talking about something serious. Something that would involve real change, physically and emotionally. The idea made my stomach churn, but at the same time, I couldn't deny the curiosity building within me. What was at stake? My sense of self, maybe, or my comfort zone. But was it really that simple? Or was there something more I was about to discover about myself? When Emma first suggested that I dress as a woman for our vacation, my mind went blank. I thought I had misunderstood her, but she repeated herself, her eyes full of anticipation, like she was waiting for me to say something, anything. The words didn't quite make sense at first. "Wait, you're serious?" I asked, feeling the tension rise in my chest. Emma nodded, smiling as if it was the most normal thing in the world. I was taken aback. At first, it sounded ridiculous.
Me?
A woman? I could already feel my heart racing, my palms sweating. I'd always been the guy's guy. I played sports, I fixed things around the house, I liked wearing jeans and t-shirts. Sure, I was open-minded, but this felt like a step too far. Was she testing me? Pushing me into something I wasn't ready for? Or was this some quirky adventure she thought would be fun? I tried to picture it, me, in a dress, heels, makeup, and all. The thought sent waves of discomfort through me. What if people looked at me and judged me? What if I couldn't pull it off? The thought of strangers' eyes on me made my stomach twist. But the more I thought about it, the more that nagging feeling of curiosity grew. What if it wasn't as scary as I thought? What if I could embrace this challenge and maybe even discover something new about myself? The idea of it being something more than just dressing up lingered at the back of my mind. But what if it changed things between us? What if Emma started to see me differently? Or worse, what if I started seeing myself differently? Could I handle the consequences of stepping into a completely new identity, even if it was just for a week? I could feel my nerves tightening as I weighed my options. Could I really go through with it? Or was I just afraid of losing who I thought I was? In the end, I couldn't shake the thought that maybe, just maybe, this was more than an experiment. Maybe it was a chance to break free from the rigid boundaries I'd built for myself. And yet, the fear of losing control, of becoming someone else entirely, gnawed at me. The more I thought about it, the more I found myself spiraling into confusion. I couldn't shake the thought of Emma's request. It seemed so simple on the surface, yet I felt like there was so much riding on it. Could I really go through with this?
What would it say about me?
Would Emma still see me the same way after? I found myself pacing around the apartment, the walls closing in on me as I tried to sort through the mess of emotions. I wanted to talk to someone, but who could I turn to? My friends? They'd think I was crazy. They were all about being a man and manly things. No way they'd understand. I even thought about asking my brother, but I couldn't imagine how he'd react. His world was even more rigid than mine. He'd probably laugh in my face. It was then I thought of Jane. Jane had always been the one who got me, the one who didn't judge me for thinking outside the box. I called her up, hoping to find some clarity. Hey, it's me, I said when she picked up, trying to keep my voice steady. I've got a weird question for you. What do you think about cross-dressing? Or, like, dressing up as a girl? There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, the slight sound of movement, before she responded. Cross-dressing? That's an interesting question. Are you thinking about doing it? I've always thought the idea of breaking out of those gender norms is kind of liberating. I felt a weight lift from my chest. Jane was understanding, like always. But then she dropped a bombshell that rattled me. But what are you afraid of? Losing yourself? Or are you afraid of what others will think? Because, there's a lot of strength in being able to play with identity. But that comes with risks, too. I didn't know how to respond. My mind was a battlefield of emotions. On one side, there was a sense of liberation, the possibility of embracing something new and exciting. On the other, there was the deep fear of judgment. What would the world say? What would Emma think when this was all over? Would she still love me? And if I did this, would it change me forever? Later that night, Emma came over, her presence comforting and terrifying at once. She looked at me, her eyes filled with that gentle determination that only she could carry. Have you thought about it? She asked softly. I could tell she was nervous, though she tried to hide it. I don't know, I said, the words coming out in a rush. It's a lot to take in. I've never even considered something like this before. I'm just afraid of what it means. What if I can't go back after? Emma reached out and touched my arm, her hand warm and reassuring. You won't be the same person, but that doesn't mean you'll lose yourself. Maybe it'll help you find a new part of you, something you didn't even know was there. I believe in you, but the decision has to be yours. The tension between us was palpable, the weight of her words pressing down on me. I couldn't deny that a part of me felt drawn to the idea, to the possibility of stepping into this unfamiliar territory. But what if it all went wrong? What if this experiment changed everything, and not for the better? Just as I opened my mouth to speak, the phone rang, cutting through the silence. It was my best friend, Jake. I hesitated before answering, unsure of whether I could explain it all in a way he would understand. But when I picked up, his first words hit me like a jolt of electricity. Hey, I heard you're doing something crazy for your vacation. You sure about this? His question hung in the air, even more loaded than it seemed. He had no idea how deep this went, how much I was questioning who I was and who I wanted to be. Could I go through with this? Could I really let go of everything I thought I knew? I looked at Emma, and she gave me an encouraging smile, but doubt still gnawed at me. I'm not sure, I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. I really don't know anymore. The weight of the decision hung over me like a storm cloud, darker with every passing moment. I stared at Emma, her face full of hope and uncertainty, waiting for me to give her an answer. The fear inside me twisted tighter, choking my thoughts. Could I really take the step? Could I trust that this would be more than just a fleeting phase, more than something that might fracture us forever? I ran my hand through my hair, frustration building as my mind raced. On one hand, I felt the pull of adventure, of doing something new and unexpected. There was a part of me that longed to explore this side of myself, to shed the confines of who I thought I was and embrace something different. But the stakes were so high. What if I didn't like it? What if it changed how Emma saw me, how others saw me? And then there was the crushing weight of my own insecurities. What if I failed? What if I wasn't good enough at it, or worse, what if I wasn't good enough for Emma anymore? I looked at Emma again, her eyes filled with an unspoken promise, and something in me snapped. If I didn't do this now, I'd regret it. The thought of missing this opportunity, of letting fear keep me from growing, felt unbearable. I couldn't let fear define me any longer. I'll do it, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. I'll dress up. But if it's a disaster, don't blame me. Emma's face lit up, and for the first time that day, I felt a spark of hope. But even as I said the words, a pit of uncertainty still gnawed at me. What had I just agreed to? Could I really pull this off without losing myself in the process? The decision was made, but the journey ahead felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The transformation began long before I even stepped into the clothes. Emma's excitement was palpable as she gathered everything, laying it out in front of me like a roadmap to a new version of myself. There were dresses, silk and satin, colors I never thought I'd wear, and heels that looked more like weapons than something comfortable. The makeup kit, overwhelming in its sheer variety, sat open on the bed like a challenge. I felt a mix of anticipation and dread swirling inside me. As I undressed, standing there in just my boxers, I couldn't help but feel exposed, both physically and emotionally. I hadn't seen myself in a dress for years, never with any intention of leaving the house. I wondered, not for the first time, if I was making a mistake. What would this do to me? To us? Emma helped me into the first dress, a deep emerald green that hugged my body in a way I hadn't expected. The fabric felt foreign, but strangely comfortable against my skin. The sensation was jarring, my mind unable to reconcile the feeling of femininity with my identity as a man. She slipped the heels on my feet, and I stumbled a little at the change in posture. It was as if my body didn't know how to walk like this. "Just take it slow," Emma said, adjusting the dress at my waist, her hands warm on my skin. "You look amazing." I couldn't bring myself to believe her. In the mirror, I hardly recognized the reflection staring back at me. The dress, the heels, the makeup, everything made me look so different, like a stranger wearing my skin. The face staring back at me was mine, but the eyes looked uncertain, unsure of what was real and what was part of this new persona. Sitting on the bed, Emma began applying makeup to my face: foundation, blush, eyeliner, mascara. Each stroke seemed to change my face, softening my features, making me feel less like myself and more like something new. When she was finished, I looked at myself again, and the difference was staggering. The man I had been seemed to disappear, replaced by a woman, someone who looked like me but wasn't. I felt a rush of anxiety, mixed with something else, exhilaration. My heart raced, not just from nerves, but from the unexpected thrill of it all. I looked powerful in a way I hadn't anticipated. I wasn't just wearing clothes. I was stepping into something I hadn't known I wanted, something that now seemed so undeniably me. But then, doubts began to creep in. Was this me, or was I playing a role? Could I carry this identity, even if only for a few days? Was I betraying something deep inside myself? I felt exposed, vulnerable in a way I had never experienced before. "Are you okay?" Emma's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I turned to look at her. The way she looked at me, with such tenderness and encouragement, made me feel seen, in a way that felt both empowering and terrifying. "I'm not sure," I admitted, my voice wavering. "It feels like I'm looking at someone else in the mirror." She smiled, a soft, reassuring smile. "It's okay to feel that way. You're still you, just different." It was hard to believe her in that moment, but I nodded, trying to hold onto the feeling of liberation, even as the doubts continued to nag at the edges of my mind. But I couldn't deny the spark of something inside me, the realization that this, whatever this was, felt like a new kind of freedom. The change, both physical and emotional, was happening, and I had no idea where it would lead, but for the first time in a long time, I was eager to find out. The moment I stepped into the restaurant, the weight of the world seemed to shift around me. Emma had insisted on going out, and though part of me had hoped for a quieter evening, my mind now raced with a different kind of tension. The heels clicked against the marble floor, each step amplifying the storm of emotions that had been brewing all day. This was no longer just a game or a costume, it was real. This was me, in front of others as a woman. We had chosen a quiet place, but still, I felt like every eye in the room was drawn to me. I could feel the heat of their gazes, some curious, some overtly appreciative. My cheeks flushed with self-consciousness, and I found myself subconsciously shrinking, trying to make myself smaller, less noticeable. But it was impossible. I was there, present, as someone new. And no matter how much I wished to blend into the background, I couldn't escape the way I was being seen. Emma squeezed my hand as we sat down at the table, her smile reassuring, but I could sense the underlying tension in her voice when she spoke. "You look beautiful," she whispered, her words carrying a weight I hadn't fully understood until now. "But you're more than that, you know?" I nodded, but the doubt gnawed at me. Was I really more than just this appearance? The physical changes, the makeup, the dress, they were all on the surface. Beneath it, I was still me, wasn't I? Or had I changed so much that I couldn't even recognize who I was anymore? It wasn't until the waiter arrived that the truth of the situation hit me full force. He glanced at me, then back at Emma, his expression shifting as he adjusted his approach. "Good evening, ma'am," he said, the title almost foreign to me. "What can I get for you tonight?" It was then that it clicked. This wasn't a temporary experiment. It wasn't just a vacation role play. This was how I was being treated now. I was being seen as a woman, a stranger to me in my own skin. The enormity of it overwhelmed me, and for a split second, I froze. But then, Emma's hand tightened around mine, steadying me. Her eyes held a quiet confidence, as if she knew exactly what I needed to hear without saying a word. "I'm still here," she seemed to say, with that single touch. "And I'm proud of you." The world outside the bubble we had created seemed to blur, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to hide. The new reality felt almost natural, like I was on the precipice of something I had longed for, even if I didn't know how to fully accept it. I wasn't sure what the future held. But for now, as I sat there, taking in the world around me through new eyes, I finally realized the truth. It wasn't about the clothes or the transformation itself. It was about how I was learning to be brave enough to step into a new version of myself, without apology. As I sit here, reflecting on everything that's happened, I can't help but marvel at how far I've come. The person I was before, self-doubting, uncertain, seems like a distant memory now. The transformation was never just physical. It ran deeper than I could have imagined. The clothes, the makeup, the new ways I moved through the world, they all became windows into parts of me I didn't know existed. I've learned more about myself in these past few days than I thought possible. This journey, forced upon me in the beginning, has turned into something freeing. I've learned to embrace parts of my identity I had buried, to explore who I really am, outside the boundaries I had placed on myself. It wasn't about the external changes, the way people saw me, it was about how I saw myself. I've found a confidence I never thought I'd possess, and it feels like I'm just beginning to scratch the surface. Emma's unwavering support has been a constant anchor throughout this journey. Her belief in me has made me believe in myself. As we continue this vacation, I no longer see the fear or hesitation I once carried. Instead, I see possibility. The woman I've become, who I am, who I can be, isn't confined to this trip. The transformation was just the beginning, not the end. The future feels open, filled with more questions, more discoveries, but for the first time, I'm not afraid to explore them. I've come to realize that no matter what shape my identity takes, I have the power to define it on my own terms. And that, in itself, is a freedom I never expected to find. Thank you for joining us on another captivating journey through Zoe's stories. Remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale. Until next time, keep exploring, keep imagining, and keep believing in the magic of storytelling. See you in the next chapter.